Welcome everyone. In the last video, we saw the general architecture of GPRS network, that is a 2.5G of the GSM evolution. And in this video, we will see the different protocol layers used in the GPRS, and after that, we will go towards the introduction of third generation, that is UMTS. So let's look at the protocol stack of the GPRS first. Now, different protocols are implemented at different components of the architecture of GPRS, which are connected via different interfaces. For example, for communication between external network and GGSN, which is nothing but gateway towards the GPRS network, there is a GI interface. All the data is communicated via IP. So GGSN uses IP here. Out of these all protocols, the new ones are very few, like GTP that you can observe. Then there is a SNDCP, BSSGP, RLC. These are the new protocols which are included in GPRS. Apart from that, every other protocol is familiar to you, which have been part of previous OSI models or wired networks. FR is frame relay. It is a type of network which is used at the physical layer of GPRS. So for communication between internal gateway supporting nodes, GN interface is used. Now this communication happens through GTP, happens through the GTP. So GTP you can see here implemented at SGSN as well as GGSN also. Then this entire part is made up of wired networks up to this one. This is wired network. So when there is a communication between SGSN and BSS, that will be wired, but BSS has to communicate through wireless interface as well. So whatever data and whatever format that is followed in this particular network, that is wired network, that format has to be converted here. That will be done by SNDCP and communicated via BSSGP. We will see details of all these protocols in the video. Then RLC, as the name suggests, radio link control, it will be responsible for wireless interface communication with the logical link and RLC of the mobile station. So this is how the communication will happen. If there is a direction of communication in the reverse direction, that is from mobile towards the external network, same protocols will be utilized and same things will happen. Functionality will be slightly different. So let's see the function of each protocol one by one. Okay, so as I had said, all the GPRS applications communicates via only standard IP. Every mobile handset will get a IP address. So everyone will communicate via standard IP. Now, first protocol which is new in GPRS is GTP. Full form is GPRS tunneling protocol. So all the data within the GPRS backbone. Now GPRS backbone is comprising of SGSN and GGSN. So communication between these two will happen through this protocol, that is GTP. So internal backbone doesn't have to worry about the IP addresses of the GPRS network because they are using a separate protocol for communication. So no involvement of IP in case of internal communication. So GTP can use different transport protocols for delivery of the packets from GGSN to SGSN or SGSN to GGSN. So IP is a network layer. For transportation, you can use either TCP or UDP. Now, choice of TCP or UDP is dependent on where network layer protocol, from which network layer protocol packets are coming. For example, if external packet data network uses X.25 packets, which requires reliable data delivery, then you have to use TCP. Okay, so I am repeating again. If external data network is using X.25 for network layer, then you have to go for TCP, or GTP has to go for TCP for transportation of packets to the SGSN or towards the external network. And if external data network is using simple IP as a network layer protocol, then you can go for UDP. UDP works well with the IP. It has no restriction, but X.25 forces a reliable data delivery. So you have to go for TCP. So that job is done by GTP. Depending on external network, choose the appropriate transport layer protocol and deliver the packets. Okay. Then next protocol which is new is a SNDCP. The full form is a sub-network dependent convergence protocol. As I discussed, packets coming from different sources of the external network, those may be computer based or server based, and the delivery has to be made towards the mobile station, okay, which is of very small size and which has certain restrictions. Okay, so it is using different protocols. Or in other scenario, if packets are originating from the mobile interface or mobile handset, then they will have a format which is designed for mobile user interface that has to be converted to the external data network, which may be servers, general computers, PDAs, anything. So the formats used by these external devices and format used by these mobile devices will be different. So to convert them into each other, SNDCP performs a key role. Okay, so SNDCP primarily converts, encapsulates if required, and segments external network format like IP datagram into subnetwork format that is suitable for wireless interface, because mobile is connected via wireless interface whereas external networks are connected via wired interface. So formats will be different. So subnetwork formats are obtained via SNDCP. Okay. Also, we know that mobile handsets cannot have a larger battery life, so all the data has to be compressed in order to efficiently transmit over the wireless network, that is UM interface. So compression of data is also done by SNDCP. Then the logical link, that is wireless link, which is used for data communication between mobile handset and the BSS and SGSN, that is also has a different format, and that is obtained by SNDCP by converting these PDUs IP datagrams into transferable by the LLC. So these external networks do not have to worry where the data should be delivered, whether to mobile handset or the general computers. SNDCP will take care of converting these IP packets into local format of these packets. Okay. Then another key aspect is SNDCP for GPRS only supports IP as a payload type. So all the payloads will be of format of IP, no other format is allowed. So that's why SNDCP is important in conversion of those all formats. So that is SNDCP. Now let's look at the next protocol, that is BSSGP. LLC is another layer, logical link control layer, which is previously also observed in the GSM. Provides a safe logical link by encrypting packets. Same LLC link is used as long as we are under the same SGSN. As we know, SGSN is equivalent to MSC from GSM. This is at the same hierarchy level as a MSC. So as long as we are under the same MSC, same logical link control or logical link will be provided by the LLC. Now next is BSSGP, Base Station System GPRS protocol. This protocol is used for communication between SGSN and BSS. So our hierarchy is MS, BSS, SGSN, GGSN, and then external packet data networks. So for communication between SGSN and BSS, BSSGP is used. The data formats for BSSGP are compatible for mobile handsets. So that format is obtained via SNDCP as we have just seen, but it should provide the minimum required quality of service, that is reliability, delay, throughput, and all the other parameters of QoS which are required for radio interface, and that is maintained by the BSSGP. Okay, When data is initiated from mobile handset, that is it is getting transferred from mobile handset to the external network, then routing has to be specified because this is wired network. External network may be wired network. So routing information has to be specified for SGSN because we know SGSN is a router. So router requires routing information. So that routing information is obtained from BSSGP. Okay, so BSSGP also provides routing information for SGSN. Apart from that, BSSGP also handles the flow control between SGSN and BSS and congestion control, due to which there may be a loss of data at the BSS. Now we know that one SGSN is connected to several BSS, BSS1, BSS2 and so on. So flow control in case of communication between these two. What is flow control? This is connected to wired network, so it has a much higher data rate, whereas BSS is connected to interface, that is wireless network, so it is having low data rate. So the data, if is initiated from external network, it will come at much faster rate compared to the data that can be supported by, or data rate that can be supported by BSS. So there should be certain flow control between SGSN towards the BSN, that is downlink direction. In uplink direction there will be no such problem, and that's why flow from SGSN to BSS is not controlled. Sorry, BSS to SGSN is not controlled and SGSN to BSS is controlled. So flow control works only in the downlink direction and not in the uplink direction. Okay, and about congestion control, as just we have seen, several BSS are connected to single SGSN. If all the base station subsystems send a data at the same time, there may be congestion at the SGSN. Now that is handled by the BSS GP. Okay, if all of them are trying to send at the same time, there will be congestion, and due to congestion there will be a loss of data, and that can be avoided by BSS GP. Okay, so key points for BSS GP: performing or maintaining communication between SGSN and BSS. For BSS, maintaining the quality of service parameters, then providing routing information for SGSN, controlling flow in the downlink direction, and avoiding congestion at the SGSN. These are the key functions of the BSS GP. The next protocol or next point about BSS GP is it does not perform any error correction, since it is implementing or helping in implementation of the congestion control. It does not provide any assistance regarding error connection, and it works on the top of a frame relay network. Okay, so when we move from now BSS GP, that is on the BSS, towards now actual wireless interface towards the mobile station, RLC is involved. LLC and RLC. LLC is responsible for wired network and RLC will be responsible for wireless interface. So radio link control provides a reliable wireless link needed to transfer data over the interface. So LLC is responsible for wired interface and RLC is responsible for interface. Okay, then MAC layer, we are using DSCDMA, that is DSSS, direct sequence spread spectrum technology in UMTS. So mapping of these LLC frames or RLC frames onto GSM physical channels, because this is different technology, that is done by medium access control. However, these new channels which are implemented in DSCDMA and their mapping onto physical resources have been defined by the standard. So one MS can allocate up to 8 traffic channels, that is same in GSM. Okay, but for 8 traffic channels in GSM you need 8 different users, but in CDMA one user can be allocated all 8 channels. If you recall GSM frame structure, there are 8 time slots, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Each one contains some separate user for GSM. So each user gets only one time slots. But in UMTS, a single user can be allocated all 8 time slots, and that increase your data rate. Okay, so that is how data rate can be increased apart from use of DSCDMA. I hope this is clear. MS can be allocated up to 8 packet data traffic channels in UMTS, whereas in GSM, each user will be allocated a single traffic channel. Okay. Also, capacity can be allocated on demand basis. We have seen GPRS, one of the feature is that uh, it has a always on characteristics. Always on, that means it can be allocated on demand and kept as it is, and it can be also shared because we are using packet switching, and circuit switching channels can be also shared in this case. So capacity can be improved in the case of UMTS. Yes, this allocation can be done dynamically that is on demand, while monitoring what is the load on the BSS and SGSN, and capacity also can be pre-allocated depending on priorities of the users, okay, and their data. So this is all about GPRS. So in the first part, we saw the actual general architecture, which new components have been introduced like SGSN and GGSN. These were new in the actual architecture. And then to support these new components, which are nothing but routers in general, there will be introduction of new protocols like GTP, SNDCP, and BSHGP, which will help in transforming external packet data into the format understandable by the internal network, that is GSM network. Okay, so this is all about GPRS. Now let's move on to the next generation of this GSM evolution, that is third generation. uh, we are directly going towards the third generation, but before that there was another generation which was implemented to improve the data rate up to 3484 kbps, and that was called as age. It was a 2.75 generation enhanced data rates for GSM evolution. But this generation and details of this generation are not part of our syllabus, so we will not discuss in detail about it. But after GPRS, there was another technology which was introduced to increase the data rate supported by GSM, that is 2.75G, which is called as EDGE, enhanced data rate for GSM evolution. And after that, the next technology that was introduced was 3G. Now, 3G, well known as UMTS, which is originally defined as a universal mobile telecommunication system, which was defined by ETSI, European Telecommunication Standards Institute, and now it is renamed to UTRA, that is Universal Terrestrial Radio Access. Okay, so UTRA and UMTS both are one and the same. UMTS is old name, whereas UTRA is a new name. So the goal of this UTRA was to provide higher data rates compared to the previous generations. For example, minimum of 144 kbps for rural, actual goal was 384. Minimum of 384 kbps for suburban regions, which may rise up to 512 kbps, and minimum of or up to of 2 mbps for urban regions where population density will be higher, so higher data rates are expected. So that was the requirement of the 3G. So the general architecture, uh, looking from outside, what is new in this one? So general architecture includes three components. First one is a user, which is identified user equipment, which is supporting a third generation technology. Then the modification on the existing network, that is UTRA, that is based on GSM, and a core network, that is the third component, which will enable communication between this new component and the existing component. For example, if you have got a 3G mobile, you should be able to communicate with the 2G mobile. Okay, so core network supports 2G, it also supports 2.5G, it also supports 2.75G. So all the lower uh, versions of the GSMs are supported by this third generation of GSM through this core network. The details of these two components we will see in the next video, but right now the summary or overall picture is that core network is responsible for inter-system handover as well as communication with the lower versions of the GSM, and UTRAN is responsible for improving the data rates up to the standards specified by the third generation. Okay, detailed functions of all these UTRAN and core network we will see in the next video. That's all for today. Thank you.